I'm under authority. I appreciate all of you that have been praising my work and all that. It doesn't matter. I appreciate all of you. But as a man under authority, I will do what authority has directed me to do. That is the matter. I wouldn't want us to be debating. Let us take the new, what do you call it? The new data from that local government, and then by the time we add up, we see what we are doing, what we are heading for. Still want us to be talking? Say something.
All protocols observed. The resident electoral commissioner, the electoral and honor officer, I want to thank you for the happy way you have handled things since morning. In fact, after standing to February 28th, you were so wonderful. But the only little issue I have is about two things. You told us now that Abuja resolved that they have brought the number from 30 to 16,016. Without the yardstick, they cannot on their own bring out a number from 26, from 30 to 16. Where are the yardstick? They can take them upon which their decision were taken. We want to know that. Now, the Enugu is presenting another report now. How come about the manufacturing of the figures we put there? Where did they get it? Is it a free gift of nature? Let's talk about it. Because for the fact that they have given a good report, the ideal thing to do here is either to order for a rod at that particular local government. There is no basis where you or Abuja, who are not indigenous of Enugu, will on their own determine the results of Enugu. And again, Rivers and if there is RF, is like a dictionary to students. If you are in conflict of words, you go to the dictionary and you get explanation. Then IRF, if you are in conflict of the vote cast, you go to the IRF to get direction. And if you are presenting figures from IRF, you get accurate figure of what's happened. Not telling someone to go back, go and write this and do this. It's not fair. We are all nurturing democracy. And it is our effort that make the democracy to excel. Especially now that the people of Enugu have decided to vote. They should be encouraged. That's my view. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, to answer you, there is provision in the regulation or whatever to review. And the essence of receiving petition from you was to see if there is room for review. And we realized that there was room for review. And the people that are involved in the review went and held the review. And they are giving us the result of the review. All your materials from here were carried to Abuja for review. The committee that is to review was constituted, and they all participated in the review. And they brought us back the result of the review. Within 7 days that is prescribed. That is all I know about this. So there was need for review. The review was done. The people that had the capacity to do the review did the review based on what happened in your field. And they have given us their result. So that's where we are. That's where we are. Do you have anything to say? Okay. All right, what again?
I'm actually embarrassed that after the round and coming back there, police agents are in older things. On the last day, I recall clearly that Labour Party agents in the oral presentation besides the written one submitted had alleged overvoting amongst other infractions. Overvoting allegation implies the use of papers. But the only way to determine overvoting is by opposing the number of aggregated voters to the number of votes counted. So anyone who alleges overvoting has admitted to the use of papers. So any complaint that alleges overvoting and it counts for papers is in self-conflict and should not be answered. That is 1. 2. I also recall advice of the line of section 65 of the law that the power of the commission to review is actually a post-evaluation exercise, and they have up to 7 days to do so. And that we should go ahead and support this government to collate and tell us that of the election. But they insisted on review. The review template in the Electoral Act did not define it yet our participation as parties agents. Therefore, the Commission has assigned an ability to do the review. And what is for us to do is to listen to that one and further regulate through the election petition tribunals in the event of any dissatisfaction. Again, Nigerians must learn to understand that our temperament, our propensities, our passions of this are in construction to the integrity of that form of the process. What is important is that that process has substantially complied with the level of care. And once done, does not matter what an individual is. Because this is about democracy now everybody. So please, I want you to go ahead and tell us the outcome of the review, the result of this event. Enugu is waiting. Nigeria is waiting. Passions are high. And patience is past friendly. Please, let's move forward and restore calmness together. I think.
Thank you very much. We over here have continued to appeal to everybody in this room and elsewhere to take it easy. The returning officer did not cast any vote. What we are managing, and what we're managing since Sunday is the vote cast by you people. So, like my brother was saying, we are not here to take over what you did. We are here to manage what you did as umpires to bring out the best out of your expectation. Everybody has expectation. Even a candidate that scored 1 vote in the local government had expectation. Those that scored 1,000 had expectation. So why the umpire is here is to, combine all the expectations and come up with what is realistic from your expectations. So I'm not here to cast vote. I'm not here to cancel votes. And that's why we decided to go through the hall, step by step, appeal by appeal, to make sure that your expectation is taken care of. Your expectation at the end of the day might not carry. It might not carry. That is the obvious thing about it. And I'm so passionate about the job I'm doing. I'm so clean about the job I'm doing. I'm so open about the job I'm doing. I've told you I'm neither for this person or for that person, but I'm for Enugu State because I have interest in Enugu State. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I think we can have the results as Thank you. Let's have some peace. Please, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Good evening, everyone. I remember my uncle said, in the American LG Collation Officer for Incase East. And the result before me is the review results by the Commission for presentation. Before I go ahead, I want to thank the Commission for the way they are handling this matter, because it has gone a long way in educating some of us whose pictures and so many other things have been flying on social media. The life of my family is on that test, and my own life is also on that test. And I need to bring it to the notice of the security agencies.
Sorry. Let's continue. Present your result, please.
It's okay. In Organics local government, there are 14 RAs. The total number of registered voters is 82959. 82959. Number of accredited voters 33156. 33156. Votes scored by individual political parties. Party AA 08. AAC 0. ADC 05. ADP 07. APC 215. APGA 117. APM 03. APP 02. BP 03. LP 1864. NNPP 14. NRM 10. PDP 16956. 16956. PRP 04. SDP 0. YPP 37. ZLP 01. 01. Total valid votes 19246. 19246. Rejected votes 27. 27. Total votes cast 19273. 19273. Thank you very much.
Did you do any translation?
Yeah, just few minutes later I assign.
That was assigned.
Yes.
Next one. Are we okay? Abuja, are we okay? Are we okay? Sorry, allow let me. Is the vote okay? Is that it? Can you relate? Can we have it from you? I will have the place on the board. Let's start vote now.
Code 11. Number of registered voters 82959. 82959. Number of accredited voters 33156. 33156.
Proceed.
Yeah. 8. 8. 8. AAC 0. AAC 0. ABC 5. ADC 5. ADP 7. ADP 7. APC 215. APC 215. APGA 117. APGA 117. APM 3. APM 3. APP 2. APP 2. BP 3. BP 3. LP 1864. LP 1864. NNPP 14. NNPP 14. NRM 10. NRM 10. PDP 16956. PDP 16956. PRP 4. PRP 4. SDP 0. SDP 0. YPP 37. YPP 37. ZLP 1. ZLP 1. Total valid votes 19246. 19246. Rejected votes 27. 27. Total votes cast 192. 73. 19273.
Can we now have the summations? Can we now have the summations from the board?
Party AA. Let's start with total 17. 17.
No? Total.
Yeah, total. So number of registered voters, just only 25.
You said party AA now?
Alright, sorry. Party AA.
Okay, start from number of registered voters.
Yes. Number of registered voters. 2, 1, 1, 2, 7, 9, 3. 2, 1, 1, 2, 7, 9, 3. Number of accredited voters. Total number of accredited voters. 3, 8, 1, 9, 7, 1. 3, 8, 1, 9, 7, 1. AA 3, 3, 0. 3, 3, 0. AAC 1, 4, 6. 1, 4, 6. AGC 1, 1, 6, 0. 1, 1, 6, 0. ADP 3, 8, 2. 3, 8, 2. APC 1, 4, 5, 7, 5. 1, 4, 5, 7, 5. APGA 1, 7, 9, 8, 3. 1, 7, 9, 8, 3. APM 3, 5, 8. 3, 5, 8. APP 1, 5, 8. 1, 5, 8. 3, 1, 9. 3, 7, 5, 5, 2. 1, 5, 7, 5, 5, 2.
Sorry, come again. Help me.
157.
195 or
157 552. 157 552. NNPP 2107. NNPP 2107. NRM 854. 854. PDP 160895. 160895. PRP 850. 850. SDP 65. 65. YPP 397. 397. ZLP 332. 332. Total valid votes 358 463. 358 463. Total rejected votes 9088. 9088. Total votes cast 367 551. 367 551.
We are taking the whole data for this election. And once again, I thank all of you for your patience. And what we have here is that we have 2112793 number of registered voters for this election in Enugu State. We had 381,971 accredited voters, and the party scored as follows: AA 330, 330, AAC 146, 146, ABC 1160, 1160, ADP 382, 382, NPC 14575, 14575, APGA 17983, 17983, APN 358, 358, APB 158, 158, BP 319, 319, LP 157, 552, 157, 552, NNPP 2107, 2107, NRN 854, 854, BDP 160, 895, 160, 895, BRP 850, BRP 850, SDP 65, 65, YPP 397, 397, ZLP 332, 332, total valid votes 358, 463, 358, 463, rejected votes 9088, 9088, and total votes cast 367, 551, 367, 551. That's the collation for the 2023 governorship election in Enugu State. So, I would like to thank all of you and want to plead with you who were sent here as agents of your parties to please come as I call your party to append your signature to the collation. Yeah? No, after we have to sign this before the collation. Yes. We have to sign it before the collation. We have to sign the collation before they'll sign it. It's not your time for this party one by one. The parties will sign it before we declare. Because if they don't sign it, that's what we have declared. I think they should go there. Let's have it. Yeah. Let's have your name.
Please, on the directive from the returning officer, the political party agents are expected to come and sign the collected result. AA, are you there?
They'll sign with their pens. Their pens. Are you there? Thank you. Thank you. I think I should shake you. Thank you.
AAC, please come and sign the document. AAC. APC.
Thank you. Where are they?
APC.
Okay.
APC declined to sign.
Thank you.
APGA Abia. Are you here?
Abia.
APN. APP. Are you here? BP. Are you here?
Thank you.
LP. LP.
What I can do? It's so easy to fight.
LP declined. MNPP.
This one is inside. Will you be able to take us into court? Yeah? Yeah? Maybe. Inside. Yes. We don't have to understand that because they want to take it for us. But if they don't sign, get that people. So the one says the plan is the problem. So sign it. Okay. Try your question. See the man. So you're making mistake. All somebody that's not between that
After PDP, PRP. PRP, Abia. SDP, Abia.
I am welcome.
The chief attorney officer to do a lot of that.
Why people? Why people? Why people?
Why PP? I'm sorry. Why PP, please? Are they here? ZLP.
Well,
Results.
sorry. Sorry, this is the last package I want to show you. It's intact. I want to open it. Where we are going to enter the last data for this. Oh, sorry, this is the last package I have to show you. I've not seen it before. It's intact. This is where we are going to enter the last bit of the data before we make any declaration. Thank you. Okay. Well, that's the first stage. That's the last stage. What are these? Okay. 17,983. What? 17,983. 17,000.
Live visuals coming from the Collation Center in Enugu State, where Nigerians and people of Enugu State specifically are awaiting the outcome of the governorship and House of Assembly results. Still with us here live in our Abuja studios is Dr. Constance Ikoku. Dr. Constance, you've been following this, and perhaps let's make sense of the. I'd like to talk about the patience and diligence with which we have seen so far in that hall, even to the extent we got to a point where tempers were actually high.
I think as a resident electoral commissioner or as INEC chairman even, you need to have a lot of patience in a country like Nigeria. You know, let's step back to the presidential election where we were having like an Arubeba moment with Dino Melaye, and he was screaming and yelling, and you need to have seen the face of the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu. He was quiet, watching, no expressions there, because you cannot engage that sort of thing. So I'm sure that there must have been some kind of training to be able to sit down there, listen to everybody, and then you listen to the results. It's such a laborious process. And I wonder why we cannot do this digitally. I mean, if we're doing visuals and all of that.
Of all the talk about how technology
yes.
drive our electoral process going forward, and it's like a long, slow.
Yeah, I wonder what is so difficult in upgrading our system. So you have everything on on the screen, and they're dropping in real time. It makes life easier, so you don't have to be doing everything manually like we see people there doing. It looked a little bit chaotic and messy. And then when he was talking about going to Abuja to revise the results where they were contentious, and then come back to Enugu to declare it in the public, it was, I was wondering, what was that about? Why do you have to go to the center to revise a result of an election that was held
at a sub-national level?
Exactly. So if you could revise that, why didn't that happen during the presidential election when people were calling for the results to be stopped or to be revised or to be cancelled and all of that? So there is a provision for that in INEC guidelines, he said. So it's interesting. We're waiting to see who wins at that stage. I mean, Labour is hoping that they get it. I don't know if they will get it. It doesn't look
based
like.
on the figures we're getting so far, from what the Enugu Resident Electoral Commissioner, Dr. Chukwemeka Chukwu, read, that the total votes cast came to about 367,551. The PDP figures, 160,895. That of the Labour Party, the LP, 157,000, thereabouts. Of course, in the fullness of time, we'll get the exact figures. But based on what you just said about INEC, you would think that INEC's pain is actually self-inflicted. And you wonder, how will INEC, redeem itself going forward? Is that even possible?
That's a tough question. Its image is so battered. It's in tatters right now. Many people or many voters came into this election investing time, hope, will, and emotions. against the backdrop of INEC's promise that the technology will be a game changer. People really believed that. Let's see that this time around it's going to happen, everything will go smoothly. Well, it hasn't panned out exactly that way. Well, the people that won, they're happy. A lot of people are not happy, especially because in most cases across the states that we have seen, it seemed to be a lot of misconduct on the part of INEC officials and many politicians as well.
Well, let's just say alleged misconduct on the part of
right.
And apparently with the protests against INEC in Lagos, Abia, Kano, I mean a number of states across the country, you've had people go to INEC offices protesting the process that is less than salutary.
Exactly. So in so many states, people were killed. You ask them, why should anybody be killed for an election? Why should anybody go to the polling unit and disrupt the process? These are the things, the perception of failure is why people get triggered, or many people got triggered to go to the streets and demand. So for instance, in Abia State, testing for the results to be announced. In Enugu State, someone called me and said there was a lot of tension because for a couple of days, the elections were on Saturday. What's today? Wednesday?
Yeah.
They haven't still concluded the results. So the perception that something untoward is going on at the INEC office is absolutely frustrating for people.
I mean, it comes back to us, the people, the bulk percentage of the electorate and the kind of education they do have about the elections and our democracy. Because looking at the crowd out there on the streets in Abia State tells you that we have a bulk percentage, a huge amount of people who are for the process at every given time, with a small percentage of troublemakers. So how do we actually get these troublemakers, perhaps to keep them at bay so that we can possibly be having a seamless and rancors-free election?
That's going to be challenging in a country where this has become like a culture and a norm during elections. And it seems like people do these things and they get away with it. You cheat in elections and you get sworn in. Well, if you bought the courts, you'll be lucky and you don't get kicked out. Sometimes the judiciary works and you'll be kicked out of that place. So this has happened several election cycles, and people are no longer afraid to go out there during election season and make trouble. And as also mentioned a couple of days, when you have a high rate of people that have nothing to do with their lives, it's very easy to recruit them to do this kind of things.
Absolutely. And you talk about the judiciary. Let's even dwell on that a little. What role really do you think the judiciary can play? Earlier when we were speaking with Sonna, he actually, did make allusions to the idea of having, judiciary members who are activists, in the best sense of it. So, this electoral process, our democracy right now, is it safe to say that the judiciary really has to step up to the plate?
Absolutely, judiciary
A lot
has
will
to.
depend on the judiciary.
Yes. Number one, yeah. I will start by saying that it is a huge shame that most of the elections end up in court. You don't want that kind of democracy where every election ends up in court because people do not believe that the electoral system is reliable and that the electoral system works for them. That's number one. So sometimes people that go to the court for justice, sometimes they get it, sometimes they do not. So in a country as Nigeria, where the judiciary is like the last hope of man, so the judiciary has to convince people that they are above board, that they have honor, that they have character, that indeed, when you come to the judiciary with your complaints, with your problems, that we will give you the justice that you deserve as a citizen of a functioning country. So we'll be looking at the presidential election, for instance. The PDP and the Labour Party have gone to court to challenge it, and I think some of these governorship elections it will be the same.
Also be contended,
yes,
yeah.
in some states the votes or the numbers are so close, and at some point the red officer had to run away because he or she was threatened.
Yeah.
Some stood their ground. So, some declared under duress. We might see some court cases after that. Nasarawa is a case in point. I've spoken to people in Nasarawa, and then there was protests going on there by women in the streets, talking about the election was stolen from the PDP. They're saying that the incumbent sort of insisted that APC has to win the state. We have that a similar situation in Kaduna, Kano. Although in Kano, NNPP is solidly on ground in Kano.
Yeah.
They won the presidential election there. So let's see when they go to court what will happen. But I think that Fampanso is really very popular there, and so is his movement and party, the NNPP.
Yeah, I think it's a done deal already in Kano, even though the margin of victory is not too wide. The NNPP candidate got around 1 million, while the APC candidate Gauna, the deputy governor of Kano State, scored around 800,000.
Kaduna was very close.
Oh, Kaduna too.
Very close. And also, I think they didn't declare.
What does that even say about the whole idea of the power of incumbency and the kind of influence they actually have over the outcome of the elections at the state level?
In Kaduna, for
How
instance.
much of that have you seen this time?
In Kaduna, for instance, the governor wasn't running.
Yeah, he wasn't
his former aide was running, so it was like he was also running because he was supporting him to win the election. So of course they had financial capital and political capital already in Kaduna. They did lose at the presidential election. APC lost that state.
Yes.
So people were really hoping that they would also lose at the presidential, at the governorship level, but they won it by the whiskers. Like they narrowly escaped. I think that might be a state that you will see the PDP go to court. Whether they get the mandate, we don't know. Yes.
All right, let's go back to Enugu then.
A reason of this result. Once again, I want to thank all of you for your cooperation, and I wish everyone here well, especially the contestants and the representatives. I wish Enugu State well. In declaring this result, I, Professor Madu APC of Oiwe, hereby certify that I am the returning officer for the 2023 Enugu State governorship election held on the 18th day of March 2023. Number 2, the election was contested. Number 3, the candidates received the following votes. Owe Chukwunonso Daniel, AA, 330 votes. Obodo Raymond Kenechukwu, ML, AAC, 146 votes. Donatus Madubike Ozemena, ML, APC, 1,160 votes. Omeje Nnamdi, ML, APP, 382 votes. Nnaji Geoffrey Uchechukwu, ML, APC, 14,575 votes. Nweke Frank Nnemeka Jr., ML, APGA, 17,983 votes. Ike Kenneth Odo, a male, APM, 358 votes. And Afamefuna Samuel, a male, APB, 158 votes. Nnamani Obioma Naemeka, a male, BP, 319 votes. Edo Chijoke Jonathan, a male, LP, 157,552 votes. 157,552 votes. Eze Kajeta, a male, NNPP, 2,107 votes. Mama Cyril Edochukwu, a male, NRN, 854 votes. Mba Peter Ndebisi, a male, PDP, 160,895 votes. Agbo Christopher Ejike, a male, PRP, 850 votes. Nweze Bell Ogochukwu, a female, SDP, 65 votes. Ede Ugochukwu Bethel, a male, YPP, 397 votes. Ukoke Elvis Chinazam, a male, ZLP, 332 votes. Number 4, that Mba Peter Ndubisi of People's Democratic Party, PDP, having satisfied the requirements of the law, is hereby declared the winner and the returned elected. I want to thank all of you for coming. Thank you.
A winner has emerged in the Enugu State governorship election, and that's in the person of the PDP candidate Peter Mba, having scored 160,895. According to the returning officer there, having satisfied the requirements of the law, hereby announces the victory of Peter Mba of the PDP. This is where we say congratulations to him. But we still have Dr. Constance Ikoku here. What do you make of all that has unfolded so far? A winner has emerged.
Yes.
Finally. Did this come as a surprise? I mean, with the figures, the Labour Party candidate scored 157,552.
This is where
Another close one.
This is where
3,000.
This is where they say that numbers matter.
That's right.
This is crunching the numbers. And the first thing that came to me was initially when they were talking there, he said that over 9,000 votes were rejected. And you see that in every state in Nigeria during these elections, presidential, House of Assembly, and governorship. So many votes rejected. I think we should revisit that. Why are so many votes rejected? Can they explain why? Because when you crunch those numbers, you know, between LP 157,000 and PDP 160,000.
9,088 would definitely make a difference to who becomes, you know, who wins or who doesn't.
Absolutely.
So, you know, some may wonder what's always going on with the numbers. Have politicians, you know, sort of become an expert in crunching the numbers and looking at where they can get their candidates to win. But I mean, congratulations to PDP candidate. I think this is a bit of a blow to the Labour Party because they were hoping to get Enugu state. They didn't do badly.
No,
I think going forward from here, Labour Party has a fantastic opportunity to build on what they have started. I mean, the presidential candidate got 11 states and the Federal Capital Territory, 12 states. 12. So they have a platform to begin to build for the future and then entrench themselves in those states and then have a party that can be broad-based, that cuts across the country. They could end up in a merger with another party like the APC did, the CPC and the Southwest Party that merged, or they could become a PDP that really builds their brand across the country. So, if the choice is theirs, I think they have the opportunity and they can do that.
Speaking of which, talking about alliances now, taking us back to when the CPC had that alliance with the ACN and giving back to what today is the APC. The Enugu state has always been a PDP state, and for the 11th time, they've been able to prove the mettle in the politics of the state. So, do you see the state also helping to rebuild the party at the national level?
I mean, rebuild PDP at the national level. So, it's not only Enugu, the whole southeast.
The whole southeast?
Yes, was PDP solidly from 1999. The Easterners have been faithful, loyal to PDP. They voted for Obasanjo 2 terms. They voted for Yar'Adua. And they voted for President Goodluck Jonathan, the 2 times that he ran. Okay? So, entrenched, except in Anambra, where Abga has been there. But there are a couple of other states that Abga had won, but because of manipulations, they were rigged out. So since then, they haven't been able to build the party, to get themselves, going in that region. It depends. Politics now is fluid. We're seeing different factors affecting our politics. We're seeing young people coming into the equation and not wanting to be part of the old guard, wanting to strike out and build, their own. It might be possible that in the next election, PDP loses the state. Who knows? If the Labour Party works, continues to
unless, of course, you can guarantee that the Labour Party in Abia will not, cave under pressure to join the mainstream party at the center, because that is there too.
Well, for Alex Otti,
for
Alex Otti, who has run, I think, twice.
3 times. This is the 3rd time.
Okay, he has run. This is the 3rd time. For someone who has run on PDP, on Abga, and then on Labour, you get the ticket, you run, and then you win. For him to join the party, I think that would be sad for many of his supporters, because this is the party that eventually gave him, the governorship seat. And I think there will be a lot of expectations from him as well. He's a technocrat, a former banker, and people are looking forward to see a difference in governance in Abia State, because Abia really needs leadership. And people from the southeast are looking for leaders. That's the other thing about Nigeria. People at the local level are not allowed to pick their leaders. This system of democracy that we are practicing, that is so centralized, imports people and forces people on people. So it's very easy to rig election, to manipulate and get on the seat. And to, when you're financially driven, that's your motivation. So you can induce people to get into seat. If that was not there, if these factors were not there, I think people will be able to choose their own leaders, and then you will see that governance will be about serving the people and changing the status.
And that's the hallmark of democracy.
Quickly here, because one more thing about talking about the parties now. The Labour Party already has one party, one state to its kitty, and the key concern here, as Sona highlighted earlier on, is the manifesto of the party, how that may ultimately, if implemented, get them more seats and states in the next election, and this rests solely on the governor-elect of the state, Alex Otti.
Definitely, they have a lot of work to do. Politics is no play. It's no child's play, especially here. You have to sit down and do the work. The mantle has been given to him. The people are behind him. As you can see from the streets today, people were so happy that he won. So he has legitimacy.
Absolutely.
He has backing. He has support. He has what he needs. Then he now has to go out there and prove that Labour Party is for the people. He has to prove that Labour Party has something to give to the country, to the nation.
Speaking of which, very, very quickly, I mean, in his manifesto, that's talking about Alex Otti. He says that all his appointees will sign a performance agreement that will be reviewed every now and again. Hopefully, well, now that he's governor-elect and he's sworn in, hopefully he can actually, put this in practice. And he also plans for a ministry of Abia. I mean, how about that?
Right. So that would be brilliant, actually, because in the public sector in Nigeria, there are hardly reviews of performances. People get a job, they can be fired, even when they misbehave, and when there are no results. So if you have someone coming from the private sector with a private sector mindset and wants to instill that into governance, that would be excellent. If he's able to achieve it, that means he has to pick the right people. That's not everybody wants to do that. Many people think that governance or government is just somewhere you go relax, get some good pay, and be a commissioner or a minister. Exactly. So if he's able to pull that off, that would be great for the Labour Party.
Not only goes again beyond picking the right people, the assembly is also key here. Hashtag recall what happened in Anambra during the time of Peter Obi. Yes, so a whole lot needs to be looked into to get a better sense of how Abia will become more developed in the days to come.
Yes.
Like I said, I mean, they have the opportunity to create a template of governance that will determine how far they go. And this is how far we go tonight on Newsnight. Many thanks for joining us. I am Ngozi Alim.
I'm Sulaiman, many thanks for watching.
Today, the Tony Elmelu Foundation Entrepreneurship Program has trained over 1.5 million young African entrepreneurs. We have disbursed nearly $100 million to over 18,000 beneficiaries who have gone on to create over 400,000 jobs across Africa.
We need to do more for women in Africa. Empower a woman, you're empowering the whole society.
The Tony Elumelu Foundation gives access to a world-class business training and seed capital.
Thanks to the Tony Elumelu Foundation Entrepreneurship Program, we've been able to structure our business and operations, but also we got the funding and financial needs to concretize it and make it happen.
This is the impact we want to achieve at the Tony Elumelu Foundation. The Tony Elumelu Foundation Entrepreneurship Program is sector agnostic. The only thing that is important to us is your ideas. The future of Africa is in your hands.
Our world is constantly evolving, and with evolution comes change. As a business-oriented community, we ensure to maximize every form of change, always. So it was wide one of the challenges of the old, where you can embrace the new. Allow us to reintroduce you to the newest value add to the FMCG retail ecosystem, OmniPay. With the new embedded payment feature of the OmniBiz app, retailers can receive payments for their orders seamlessly and manage them on the OmniBiz app. Talk about receiving money through multiple virtual bank accounts and viewing all your transactions in one single ledger. We've partnered with the most efficient financial service providers in the country to make this happen. What does this mean for you? It means that now you can buy products at your neighborhood stores and easily pay to their OmniBiz virtual account. Don't be left behind. Now, you can truly go cashless with OmniBiz.
The situation of the country is really tough. It has been making business work for us because most of people that comes They don't have cash. The CBN policy or new naira note is making petrol slow. So they thank God for omnibus. Once you scan the omnibus QR code, you see varieties of bank to pay. It's either you choose the one you want or you choose the one you have, which you know it can be easier to you to pay to make your payment. Then you pay easily, you see the money into our wallet, we give your loans. So I thank omnibus for bringing such an idea that makes it easy for customers to patronize us and pay easier to our wallet. One of the advantages of omnibus wallet is that when we order for goods, when it's being supplied to us, we collect it, we log into we transfer direct to omnibus instead of paying cash. Then we log into our app, we transfer it, and we receive our goods in good condition.
Knowledge is power. Information is currency. Trust us to tell you what you need to hear. Welcome to the program. You're with the Rise News in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Breaking news, exclusive interviews, unrivaled analysis. It's you, the audience, who drives our agenda. We tell the stories that inform you, the stories that are important to you, and the stories that are about you. We are not every news channel. We are a Rise News.
This is the heart of the business world in Lagos, the commercial capital of Africa's largest economy.
These aren't just numbers. They represent our nation's sharpest minds, our most successful investors, our most inspiring bosses. In Nigeria, business is in our DNA. From micro-business to startups to world-conquering brands. Every success story has something in common. They all started somewhere. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Global Business Report gets to the heart of business. We bring you the stories making headlines across the globe with in-depth analysis from experts and executives.
This is not business as usual. This is the Global Business Report.
Hello and welcome to the program. You're with the Rise News in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Ahead over the next hour, all of the global headlines you need to know about. This is The World, and I am Amaka Ode-Walker. Our top stories this hour. Ukraine's president returns to the front lines near Bakhmut, where fighting has raged for months. Well, his visit comes as Moscow launched a series of attacks on Ukrainian cities. At least 7 people are killed in drone strikes in the capital region. A landmark United Nations report paints a grim picture of a global crisis. Well, 2 billion people have no access to save drinking water, and climate change could make it worse. Well, the release of the report coincides with the first major United Nations Water Summit in more than 40 years. And tonight, we have a special report. Plus, former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is testifying before a parliamentary committee, defending himself against allegations that he misled Parliament about attending parties during COVID lockdowns. And here in Nigeria, some breaking news. Peter Mba, the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, has been declared the winner of the governorship election in the southeastern state of Enugu. Well, thanks again for staying with us here on Arise News. Well, we'll begin with that breaking news. Well, the People's Democratic Party governorship candidate for Enugu State in the 2023 general elections, Peter Mba, has been declared the winner of the race. Well, announcing the result at INEG's Collation Center in the state. The Collation officer, Professor Ndubisi Iwi, the Vice Chancellor of the Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, Umujike, Abia State, says the PDP candidate polled the highest number of votes of 160,895, while his closest candidate, that's AGK Njoga of the Labour Party, scored 157,552 votes. Well, the All Progressive Grand Alliance, Abia, came third with 17,983 votes, while the All Progressives Congress secured about 14,575 votes. Away from Nigeria now to eastern Ukraine, where President Volodymyr Zelensky has visited frontline positions in the area around the besieged city of Bakhmut, where his troops continue to resist a sustained Russian assault that's lasted more than 7 months. Images taken inside a vast building in an unnamed location show him handing out awards and being photographed with Ukrainian soldiers. Mr. Zelensky thanked battle-weary soldiers for their defense of the city as well as the nation. The battle for Bakhmut has become one of the most defining fights of the war so far. And according to the United Kingdom's defense officials, Russia's attack on the city, which they've been trying to capture for months, could be losing momentum.
I'm honoured to be here today in the east of our country, in Donbass. It is your historical mission to protect our land and return everything belonging to Ukraine for our children. I think it would be fair to honour the memory of our fallen servicemen, our heroes that protected Ukraine, with a minute of silence. I'm really grateful to you, to all of you. Thank you again. Take care of yourselves.
Наших військових героїв, хто захищав Україну.
In the meantime, elsewhere in Ukraine, officials say at least 7 people have been killed by Russian drone strikes in the capital region. Well, military sources say a civilian block was damaged in the attack. Ukraine's military said it shot down 16 of the 21 Iranian-made drones that Russia launched overnight. 2 residential buildings in the southeastern part of the capital were hit. Well, rescue services said an 11-year-old was amongst the victims.
At around 3 a.m., drones started attacking. It was a series of attacks. We know that 3 people died immediately, and just now, we witnessed that 1 more body was retrieved. We know that most people went downstairs to the basement, as we evacuated almost 200 people that were there. Unfortunately, some people stayed on the upper floors during air raid alert. One of them, the 4th victim, was a 40-year-old driver who was on the 5th floor and got covered by debris. We retrieved him now, unfortunately.
And Ukrainian authorities say one person has been killed by a Russian missile strike on residential buildings in Zaporizhia. President Zelensky condemned the attack. At least 25 people were taken to hospital after 2 9-story buildings were hit. And Chinese President Xi Jinping has left Moscow after 2 days of talks with President Vladimir Putin. The two leaders issued a joint statement calling for responsible dialogue to end the war in Ukraine. Mr. Putin says Beijing's proposal to end the conflict could be used as the basis for peace settlement, but that Kyiv and the West do not appear willing to solve the situation. And here is our special correspondent, Cal Bostic, who has been monitoring developments as it concerns the Ukrainian war out of London.
As you said, it's been a long struggle, but this has been really the longest sustaining battle of the war so far in the past 13 months. It began in August. Bakhmut, Charles, it's barely even a city. It's a town of 70,000 people, Charles, but it's on the edge of Russian-controlled territory, which Russia wants to seize so that it can then push forward into the Donbass region. That's why it's important, but it's really more symbolic than anything else. President Zelensky actually visited Bakhmut back in December, days before Christmas, to show defiance, resistance, and resolve. What's really striking about this, Charles, is this. This is a city of 70,000 people. It's nothing but a wasteland. It's in ruins. In fact, Ukrainian minister mentioned that the city was completely, entirely evacuated. Only 10 children are still there. This really harkens back to the First World War, Charles, because it's nothing but trench warfare. Because this battle, if anything, shows a striking dimension of this war. It's a war that shows how this is one of a ground combat war, where lots of troops are required and lots of artillery. And that's why it's so striking. And because of symbolic nature, that's why Ukraine has not retreated. It's now the 8th month of the longest and deadliest battle of the war so far. And while many will suggest that this is not a turning point or a battle of strategic value, it's very, very symbolic because Russia's had many, many setbacks in around 8 months. And there's a strategy for Ukraine, despite the high losses of casualties. Their strategy could be one of draining Russia and weakening Russia, preventing it from deploying its assets elsewhere because Russia didn't expect it to go on this long. So the Zelensky visit basically is that one of defiance, as you just mentioned. But to put things in perspective in terms of just the loss of manpower, this is a ground war, Charles, that even makes you think about World War I. It's trench warfare, Charles. It's amazing. And what you have so far is that you have troops, not only just Russian troops, but mercenaries from a group that's been outsourced by the Russian government, the Wagner Group, also made up of prisoners, prisoners who have been freed to fight on the condition that they fight for 6 months and then they'll be able to walk away. But they've been basically human waves of assaults against Ukrainians. That's because Russia's more than 3 times the size of Ukraine. So multiple times a day, Charles, they're sending 5, 6, 7 waves of Russian troops or mercenaries and prisoners, into the fight in Bakhmut. And that's why the casualty toll is now 30,000, Charles, over the past several months of those killed and injured. The overall total being 200,000. So we have to really see what happens. In terms of the value of Bakhmut, it's at the edge of Russian-controlled territory. If they capture it, it's at the crossroads of highways leading to much, much, much numerous population centers. So again, Charles, this comes a day after President Zelensky was welcoming Japan's leader, Kishida, the first time a Japanese leader has visited a war zone since World War II to show his support for Ukraine. That's how much has changed in the past year, Charles.
Our special correspondent, Cal Bostic, a little earlier, of course, keeping us updated with the latest with regards to the war in Ukraine. And away from that war, the United Nations report has warned of a looming global water crisis with scarcity becoming prevalent because of overconsumption and pollution. The document was published to coincide with the first major United Nations Water Summit in more than 40 years. Thousands of delegates attend the three-day gathering in New York. The United Nations says more than 2 billion people don't have enough water for at least a month in a year. 26% of the world's population doesn't have safe drinking water, and nearly half of them don't have adequate sanitation. The UN is warning that water shortages are going to get worse in the coming decades, especially in cities, unless there is better intentional and international cooperation. For people living in one suburb in Abidjan, Ivory Coast's port city and fast-growing economic hub often find themselves without clean water.
We've got a water problem here. They should do something about it. We've had no water in the house for over a year. Every day we have to come here to collect water. It's not easy. Some of our kids get stomach infections. I've got a pregnant sister currently in the house who has an infection, a chronic infection.
We need to have clean toilets, and the house has to be clean plates done, and for that we need water. If it's not clean, the children breathe in the odors, the filth, and that can make them sick.
And water shortages are already affecting those living in cities, and what that means in lower income areas in cities like Caracas is that some Venezuelans haven't had tap water for decades.
We come to get water here every 2 weeks to drink. And for the house I have to carry it every day because we get water sometimes once a week and for 2 hours, an hour and a half, if it even arrives. Otherwise we don't have any water.
We have to buy the containers, water, at $2 or $2.50 they are charging us. It's too much. We can't do it anymore because nobody puts up with that. Sometimes the guys from here bring us water from over there, water well, and sell it to us cheaper. We've had over 20 years of not knowing what it is to have tap water.
And we do have a special report out of Nigeria concerning, of course, the global water crisis. But for now, of course, you're still watching the world, and there's plenty more still to come, including U.S. prosecutors have released videos showing the final moments of a black patient who died in custody in a mental hospital. So stay with us.
When you invest in people, you give them the opportunity to be more. With up to 20 million young people joining the African workforce each year, empowering the next generation has never been more important. Access Bank's Project LEAD has equipped over 90,000 students with leadership training, and our Pitchathon scheme invests in female entrepreneurs, helping them realize their vision. Access, more than banking.
We all want to do our best to win for our team. But right now, we're losing to the illegal trade in wildlife. Illegal bushmeat is on sale in our cities, risking extinction and our health. We've become a centre for ivory and pangolin smuggling, and many of our iconic species are threatened with extinction. So please report wildlife crime and say no to illegal bushmeat. And let's work together to win for Nigeria. Keep them wild, keep us safe.
This is the heart of the business world in Lagos, the commercial capital of Africa's largest economy.
These aren't just numbers. They represent our nation's sharpest minds, our most successful investors, our most inspiring bosses. In Nigeria, business is in our DNA. From micro-business to startups to world-conquering brands. Every success story has something in common. They all started somewhere. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Global Business Report gets to the heart of business. We bring you the stories making headlines across the globe with in-depth analysis from experts and executives.
This is not business as usual. This is the Global Business Report.
Welcome back. You're still watching The World with me. I'm Maka Uday Walker. Announced the U.S. where prosecutors in Virginia have released videos showing the final moments of a black patient who died in custody in a mental hospital. Aro Oteno, who was handcuffed and in a leg iron, is seen being pinned down by a large group of police and medical staff for 11 minutes until motionless and limp. His death is the latest example of a black man dying during a violent encounter with law enforcement. Officials haven't said why Mr. Oteno was taken into custody or why he was transferred to the mental health facility. Although prosecutors say they were told he was restrained because he was combative. 7 police officers and 3 former hospital employees, the majority of whom are black, have been charged with second-degree murder.
Those 9 men, those 9 thugs and a woman, those 10 monsters, those 10 criminals, I was happy to hear that they were indicted. And that is just the beginning step. I hope that with my team beside me, with my friends behind me, with my community behind me, with mothers and fathers who are fearful for what might happen to their children after seeing what happened to Ivor, with the young people who are going through mental distress, and the world behind me, we will achieve justice for Ivor Otieno.
And for more on this, let's hear from Araju's correspondent Eric Allen, who is in Washington.
This was a unfortunate incident that took place on March 6th, and this individual who has had a history of mental illness issues and has been hospitalized before. We know that this incident took place at Grand Central Hospital in just south of Richmond, Virginia, which is about 2.5 hours away from the nation's capital. And we see here there were 7 sheriff officers as well as 3 hospital employees, all of whom have been fired, all of whom who have recently been indicted by a Virginia grand jury. Now, we do know, of course, the video shows that the young man was being restrained by these individuals, and it was when they were restraining him that he eventually stopped breathing and became lifeless. And since then, we know that all of them have been charged with second-degree murder. And it's just another incident that we have seen play out very recently, particularly with the tragic and brutal death of Tyrone Nichols in Memphis, Tennessee, and now another high-profile case of someone in particular who was struggling with mental health, who, of course, unfortunately, has been killed at the hand of both police and hospital employees. Now, the hospital has said that they are actually continuing to cooperate with authorities, and one of the sheriffs that has actually been indicted in this case has already said that he awaits the moment when he can tell his side of the story because he believes he is innocent of any and all charges that have been brought against him. The police officers union has not provided any of the sheriff deputies that have been charged in this case to speak on the record about what happened on that fateful day. Well, he's a lawyer. He's fighting for his client. He's fighting for justice. He's fighting for some type of remedy for the situation that has taken the life of another individual very senselessly, unfortunately. And so, in instances like this, because he is a very colorful character, albeit a very effective one, and turning the bright light on the injustices, particularly as law enforcement encounters with the African American community in the United States. And what we see here is an individual who is, known to hyperbole when addressing this issue. But again, what we are seeing here is the swiftness in terms of how these individuals have been brought to justice, much similar to what we saw in Memphis with Tyrone Nichols, who was no stranger to mental health issues. And of course, as his mother certainly made mention in a recent interview, that he did have mental health struggles, which did make him no stranger to bouts of actual hospitalization as a result of that. And so again, that's also something that will be taken into account as this criminal case gets underway.
Our U.S. correspondent there, Eric, bringing us up to speed, of course, with regards to that Ivor Otrino's case in Virginia. And away from the U.S. now to the U.K., where former Prime Minister Boris Johnson faced a grilling by a parliamentary committee over his handling of the so-called Cattegat scandal, of course, which multiple gatherings were held at number 10 Downing Street, while the country was subject to COVID distancing rules. In over 3 hours of questioning, Johnson maintained that he did not believe that he had broken government guidelines. Well, that's despite his receiving a police fine for breaking COVID rules. For the first time, a government leader has been charged with a crime. Boris Johnson delivered a fairly self-assured opening statement, but appeared rattled at times under the harsh questioning of fellow MPs. But despite the pressure, he stuck to his guns, denying that he had not deliberately or recklessly misled the House of Commons in multiple statements after the gathering came to light.
As you've just said, there were a number of days over a period of 20 months when gatherings took place in Downing Street that went past the point where they could be said to be necessary for work purposes. That was wrong. I bitterly regret it. I understand public anger, and I continue to apologise for what happened on my watch, and I take full responsibility. But as you just said, Chair, the purpose of this inquiry is not to reopen so-called Partygate. It is to discover whether or not I lied to Parliament, wittingly misled colleagues and the country about what I knew and believed about those gatherings when I said that the rules and the guidance had been followed at number 10. I'm here to say to you, hand on heart, that I did not lie to the House. When those statements were made, they were made in good faith and on the basis of what I honestly knew and believed at the time. When this inquiry was set up, I was completely confident that you would find nothing to show I knew or believed anything else, as indeed you have not.
And our correspondent Laurie Laird has more on this story.
3.5 hours of testimony with Boris Johnson in front of what's called the Parliamentary Privileges Committee. And one of the things that Boris Johnson's team tried to throw doubt on, and Boris Johnson did it himself, was the composition of the committee. He started out, we saw that quote from Boris Johnson just a moment ago, and it was interesting, because he started with a degree of humility. He apologized, that he deeply regretted what happened, but by the end of that statement, he was already on the defensive. But very early on in his testimony, he tried to throw some degree of question over the impartiality of the committee. He said he didn't necessarily agree with the way the committee operated. Now, the woman who led the committee, Harriet Harman, and we're looking at her right now, she is a Labour MP, and she has tended to be to the left of the Labour Party, so always a thorn in the side of the Conservative Party. But it's very important to point out that 4 of the 7 members of this committee are Conservatives, so we have to keep that in mind when their decision comes out, which isn't likely to be until the summer. half hours of watching this, and some points this really was surreal, Charles. But you got it right. Boris Johnson said, "I misled Parliament, but that's only because at the time that I spoke to Parliament, I believed that I was operating within current COVID guidance and COVID rules. Nobody advised me," and this was his big defense. Nobody advised me that what I was doing was in breach of rules. And that was the refrain he kept coming back to over and over again. When he stuck to that line, he appeared at his most self-assured. When he came away from that line, he got rather rattled, and there were some questions he didn't seem to answer all that completely, despite the fact that a number of people on the committee said your answers are too long and you're repeating yourself. But he said things like, some of the photographs that came out of people at parties, people with, with drinks in their hands, bottles of wine in the foreground of these photographs. He said one of them was taken by a Downing Street photographer, and then said, "Look, if we thought anything was wrong, why on earth would we have invited the..."
The Dangote Group stands at the forefront of African enterprise. Since 1978, we've touched the lives of millions of people by meeting their basic needs. Our belief in the promise of Africa has taken us into 14 African countries, with substantial investments that will propel the continent towards greater prosperity, promising jobs, improved standards of living, and economic growth. Dangote, for an empowered Africa.
Welcome back. You're still watching The World with me, Amaka Ude Walker. And as the World Health Organization says, only about 19% of people living in Nigeria have access to safe and clean drinking water, despite the fact that 70% of the population have access to basic water supply. Well, our correspondent Olija Wapera x-rays this startling statistics and of course, their implications in this special report on World Water Day and sanitation.
As World Water Day is about accelerating change to solve the water and sanitation crisis. About 71% of the Earth's surface is water covered, and the oceans hold about 96.5% of all Earth's water. While there is so much water on Earth, the ability to access clean water which is free from bacteria and infection is not always possible. This community in Gwagwalada Area Council in Abuja called Anagada has some residents who depend on this shallow well and other similar wells to cook, wash and drink from. Others depend on private boreholes done by individuals for nature use.
This water, when they drink, no good. Then, cow, they come drink and I go come fresh it. But as you see this river, I see cow for come drink this water. But that's why I need government to help us to prepare this water to be a good to human drink. That's why many people that they sick as a drink and stomach and headache and every skinniness.
The water flows from Amadada axis. We have about 4 wells which are for drinking, and that is one that somebody was carrying water within that previous time. So we believe that if there's any means that the government can support to bring a borehole in that is, we appreciate the government for doing that.
Another community in the Federal Capital Territory is this one here in Incase, a stream along the expressway.
The backwater and the catfish, also fish, the cocoa, also the combat, the compulsion.
A report released by Nigeria's Federal Ministry of Water Resources and UNICEF says that 1/3 of the population drink contaminated water at home, and 46 million people are still practicing open defecation.
It is possible to achieve it if we have the right partnership and then we're able to create enough awareness among our populace. And then basically, the population needs to understand the implication of open defecation. The Federal Ministry of Water Resources statutorily is not responsible for provision of water, but we provide interventions when necessary. I also know that communities write to the ministry asking for help. And when there is budgetary allocation and it's possible, the ministry provide the intervention. There are communities who have written, but sometimes what handicaps us is the budgetary allocation and releases.
The latest report by the United Nations Children's Agency, UNICEF, says over 26.5 million Nigerian children who live in vulnerable communities are extremely at risk to water-related diseases. According to the report, these communities rely on surface water, unimproved sources of water, or water that can take more than 30 minutes to collect. As much as there are several water purifying factories, not every Nigerian can afford such water, especially in these communities. Globally, an estimated 2,000 children under 5 die every day from diarrheal diseases. Of these, some 1,800 deaths are linked to water, sanitation, and hygiene.
If you look at the world statistics for water and sanitation and hygiene, Nigeria falls low in our ranking, because it's been estimated that just about 26% of Nigerians have access to improved water and sanitation facilities. Not the perfect one, improved. Meaning, for example, protected toilets, people whose boreholes are situated away from where they can be contaminated, that type of thing. It's been said that about 70,000 children will lose them every year to diseases that are mainly related to waterborne diseases, mainly diarrheal diseases. So that's quite a number. So we start from somebody passes feces, the flies can be a vector, the fingers, the person doesn't wash his hands well, the water around that area, the fluid, the field itself, because somebody might come and step on it, walk on it, crops are grown on it, and feces has already contaminated this area, and then it gets into the food, and that person puts it in. You can get E. coli infection, you can get salmonella, and from there get typhoid fever. These are things you can pick up also from water sources. And because if I use a protected water source, a pipe-borne water, for example, water coming from the field or wherever does not come to me. But if I have to use rainwater, I have to use the well that is not protected and all that, then definitely these things we have mentioned will be in that water and I will pick it up. You see, we have to face the realities that there is a challenge in the government being able to fund and drive everything. So while the government is working, hopefully, at the SDGs, I think we need to be educated as to the harmful practices that are being done. That is why we have our community extension workers who need to help us push some of these messages. They are there embedded with the community. These are messages teaching people how to do things like this, prepare ORLs, boil water, filter water, how to design latrines and all that. These are things that will go a long way. Because if you push the message over and over again, some of it will get through.
A sign of development within any society is the growth of water distribution companies by the government and private individuals. With this in mind, we hope that all efforts will be geared towards meeting the Sustainable Development Goals 2030. Oli J. Wapera, Arise News.
Well, thank you, Olivia, for that report there. And away from Nigeria, well, at least 19 people are now known to have died as a result of a strong earthquake in Afghanistan that caused tremors across a huge part of the country. The epicenter of the 6.5 magnitude quake was the Hindu Kush mountain range. Well, people in Kabul were outdoors when the quake hit because they were celebrating the Persian New Year. Well, many chose to spend the night outdoors. Well, at least 9 people died in Pakistan, where hospitals have been placed on high alert. The spot area is where most of the damage appears to have taken place. Well, the main highway in the area has now been blocked because of landslides.
There was a sudden earthquake. The children came out of the house. The ceiling collapsed. I was with my mother who was sick in the other room. We came out. My children were out of the room. There were no casualties among my family members. When I came to the yard, the kitchen collapsed as well.
And on to France, where the President Emmanuel Macron says the controversial changes to pension laws will be implemented by the end of the year. And his government's plan to raise the retirement age from 62 to 64 has led to weeks of demonstrations across the country. A 9th round of strikes and national protests will take place on Thursday. President Macron's government forced through the amendments in the National Assembly without a vote.
As I speak to you right now, do you think I enjoy doing this reform? No. Do you think I could have done the same as many others before me and sweep the dust under the rug? Yes, maybe. But the reality is, today, there's one thing I regret. It's that we weren't able to inform of the constraints, and more specifically, the need to undergo this reform. So yes, there aren't 100 solutions if you want the pension system to be balanced. It no longer is. And the more we wait, the more it will get worse. So this reform is necessary. And I say this to the French people. I don't enjoy doing this. I would have preferred not to do this. But it's also because of a sense of responsibility that I expressed my commitment to do this in front of you. I say this in all responsibility. I'm not wishing to get re-elected. I cannot be, as said in the Constitution. But between the short-term polls and the general interest of the country, I choose the general interest. And if in the end I have to endure unpopularity today, I will endure it.
French President Emmanuel Macron there, and police have fired tear gas at people protesting in Beirut against Lebanon's continuing economic crisis. Well, many of those demonstrating are retired soldiers demanding a living wage. It comes after the Lebanese lira fell a record low last week. Inflation has been skyrocketing since 2019, making essential daily items increasingly unaffordable. And problems with the banking sector means people struggle to access their own money.
We are demanding our rights for which we put our blood on the line for 25 or 35 years. A military officer here has spent around 25 to 30 years in service for this nation. Today, we feel like strangers in this country. Strangers. We can't even buy bread with our salaries. This is our country and we spent our lives protecting this country and we protected the country's institutions. And now our former military are sleeping outside the banks and institutions. We have rights. We have a right to a pension as it is supposed to be. We have a right to medical insurance, schooling and the education of our children. We have a right depending on our rank, and every rank has rights that they are meant to have.
A judge in London has opened an inquiry into allegations that members of the British Armed Forces killed dozens of unarmed people during military operations in Afghanistan. The independent investigation is focusing on raids carried out a decade ago. The probe's chair, Lord Justice Haddon Cave, calls the allegations extremely serious. The inquiry will look into night raids carried out by the UK Special Forces between 2010 and 2013. It will examine both allegations of killings and that of subsequent cover-ups. And now to Brazil, where the President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has signed a decree requiring more federal government jobs to be held by more black and mixed-race people. Well, under the new law, 30% must be allocated to non-white staff within 3 years. President Lula said racism was at the root of inequality and should be fought like a plague. Well, he's promising to make Brazil's government more closely reflecting the society. Well, over half the population is black or mixed race in the South American nation. And Google has launched its own artificial intelligence chat bot called Bard, rivaling the popular ChatGPT launched late last year. Or using the internet, Bard can actually answer questions in a human-like way. Google is taking a cautious approach to rolling it out. Well, you have to be over 18 and have a Google account just to get on the waiting list. Well, it's a significant milestone in the global AI race. Well, some people are worried that artificial intelligence is getting a bit too good at doing human jobs. Well, time now for a quick break, but entertainment and sports are coming up next. Just stay with us.
Every day, life presents hopes, dreams, and challenges. Challenges that can become successes with a little help. Because a little help can empower you to go from despair to celebration. A little help can keep you going until the race is won. A little help can turn bundles of anxiety into a bundle of joy. And with Glow Data, you get much more than just a little help. You get the biggest data deals in town to make every day glow with small wins and big wins. Dial *777# to select your Glow Data plan.
Introducing an all-time mega offer. Get over 50% discount in the Airtel Home Broadband mega offer. Buy a router for just 10,000 naira and get up to 240 gigabytes or a MiFi for 5,000 naira and get up to 125 gigabyte bonus data. More data, more you. Reliable home broadband by Airtel, the smartphone network.
Welcome back. This is Watching the World with me. I'm Maka Walker. Well, let's take a look at some entertainment stories now. Director and actor Ben Affleck attended the South by Southwest Festival to premiere his upcoming film about the revolutionary partnership between Michael Jordan and Nike.
You know, I did my first sort of real movie here, although I wasn't sure it was a real movie at the time. It was Dazed and Confused. It was 30 years ago, or 31 years ago, and I can't believe I'm that old. But I also, it's you know, this is a movie that we wanted people to enjoy. It's made to inspire people, to make them feel good. That's not, I don't think, cheesy or schmaltzy or saccharine or fake. It's about people and their flaws and conflicts and struggles. But in the end, I felt like, and I'm not usually drawn to this kind of thing, but I thought, I want something that could really inspire people, you know, in the way that Michael Jordan is inspiring to the world. You know, you see excellence, genius like that. There's something about it that moves us and makes us think, maybe I can do something different. Maybe I can do that thing I'm afraid of. Now, he's not in the movie because, well, for one thing, you know, he's just too iconic and too famous. The minute you try to show somebody else and say that's Michael Jordan, you kind of lose the whole audience because, by definition, when you're that iconic, there's only one of you in the world.
And I think what happened was when we wrote Good Will Hunting, it took so long because we didn't know what we were doing. And so we kind of figured we shouldn't do that again because it's like we don't have the time. But when we wrote The Last Duel together, it went really fast because in the intervening 2 decades, we've done nothing but make movies. So we kind of figured out how to do it kind of in the interim, and so we found ourselves like really enjoying the process again. And we should be doing this more often.
I don't think anyone really knows what they're going to experience. Because I've read comments, I literally went online to read comments. I can't believe I did. But yeah, I know. But I really don't need to do that. But when I'm reading the comments, people they can't even anticipate what they're about to say.
And staying with movies, where Keanu Reeves and director Chad Stahelski says they both agreed that John Wick, the character, is making
Sacre Coeur. Weapons.
If you win, the table will honor its word. You will have your freedom, but you won't take it. Blades. Pistols.
Yeah, huge Buster Keaton fan. And we have a bit of a stare fetish in John Wick.
Wait, what are you saying? You have a bit of
I have a stare fetish.
You like seeing,
I like seeing John Wick go down.
Bodies going flying down stairs.
Car hits and stair falls seem to be one of my things.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And Keanu has like very specific physicality. How hard is it to get him stunt to do this?
I don't know. I don't know. Jackson. You know what I like is that they're obviously super talented stunt people and they get to do some fun stuff. But I think also, I don't know. It's not like you try or we try to like do a perfect match. For me, I always look at it like you can kind of know, like this is me, and then there's another movement that I don't think we're looking to sell it perfectly.
No, we're looking for that just organic marriage between the two.
Yeah, so that you can kind of still enjoy that. It's a stunt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, we want to celebrate that it's a stunt. At the same time, you want the action. We're not trying to do like, okay, this is...
It's not trying to sell like, oh, I did it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like...
We want you to believe that it's John Wick. Exactly.
But that it's still celebrating what, for me, I think, organically, it's the stunt person who's doing it.
Sell the character, sell the pain.
Yeah.
However we do it.
Yeah, that should be sell the character.
Sell the pain. We have a lot of sayings in John.
Make a movie. Make a movie.
Well, that's it.
Make a movie. Sell a character.
Sell the pain.
But I've never been a fitness girl. I've never been very fit or done much exercise. Like I was quite anti-exercise when I was younger. So this was the most amount of exercise I've ever done. And actually, in the first training, something like popped in my back, and I was like, "Oh, it's fine. It's probably just I don't know. It's probably just a bit of whatever." I didn't think much of it. And then in the next couple of days, my back started to kind of go like this. One side of my back started to shrink, and I basically pinched a nerve in my first day of training. But I mean, I was in Germany, best healthcare. So in a week, I was like back up and running. But essentially, I only had 4 weeks of training, so I had to miss 1 week because I pinched a nerve in my first day of training. And it wasn't the most unfair and uncool thing is that it wasn't in a really complex bit of training. It was in a drill, where you had to duck under, and I was like, and it was the easiest move. It's a bit like tour. When I tour, I'm doing touring for 5 weeks, doing on stage every single night, hour and a half. But I don't feel any strain, and then I'll reach for a donut or something the day after, and I put my back out.
Well, of course, yeah, well, that's the whole movie, yeah. I mean, it's is he a friend? I mean, I think he is, yeah, but he's supposed to self-preservation. But when the big thing happens in the first 20 minutes of the movie, then it becomes personal for Winston, because his world has been invaded. I mean, for 4 years for 4 series, for 3 movies he's been defending John, and trying to look after him, despite shooting him at the end of episode 3. But now he's come back, it's like saying his world's being taken away when they take away his hotel, whatever. So he's on John's side. But is he?
Right, of course, John Wick 4 hits theatres sometime next month. Bruce Springsteen, Gladys Knight, and Mindy Kaling have been honored by the US President Joe Biden at the White House. Julia Louis-Dreyfus was also amongst 22 people and organizations who received medals. The medals are Biden's first batch of awards for the arts and humanities and were delayed due to the pandemic.
We're a nation, a great nation, in large part because of the power of the arts and humanities. That's stamped into the DNA of America. And today, Jill and I, Kamala and Doug, and all of you, we continue the legacy of awarding two of our nation's highest honors to 23 extraordinary Americans. The National Medal of the Arts to honor outstanding contributions to the excellence, growth, support, and availability of arts in the United States. And the National Humanities Medal to honor those whose work has deepened the nation's understanding of the humanities and broadened our citizens' engagement with history, literature, philosophy, and so many other subjects.
Well, before we go, let's remind you of our headlines here on The World, where Ukraine's president returns to the front lines near Bakhmut, where fighting has raged for months, where the devastated city has long been a focal point of the war as Russian forces try to revive their military campaigns in the east. A landmark United Nations report paints a grim picture of a global crisis, where it says 2 billion people have no access to safe drinking water, and climate change could make it even worse. Plus, a former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is testifying before a parliamentary committee defending himself against allegations that he misled Parliament about attending parties during COVID lockdown. Of course, earlier we did tell you that some breaking news just came in some minutes before the news that Peter Mba, the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, in, of course, the March 18th governorship elections in Enugu State, was declared the winner, defeating his closest rival, the candidate of the Labour Party, that's Chijioke Ejoga, who garnered about 157,552, and Frank Wege Jr., of course, garnered 17,983 votes to place third. Well, you've been watching The World with me and Maka Ude Walker. Well, please keep it here on Arise News. And from the entire team here in Abuja, as well as our teams across the globe, have a very good night and thank you for watching.
One planet, our world.
200 countries, 500 cities, over a million.
8 billion people with your own story every day, every news day. We make sense of all the noise because you need to know what's important for you, your family, your business, and how it affects your story. Breaking news, the top stories,
all the sports updates as they come,
and the very latest entertainment news from Nigeria and the world. Our stories are your stories.
From our headquarters in Lagos, Arise Music for 3 hours every day.
Make every day a news day.